Okay, so I'm going to be taking apart the model S3501 steam mop, Shark steam mop, to clean a very clogged heating core. The tools I found that you're going to need for this job are some CLR, some latex gloves when you're working with the CLR, a Phillips head screwdriver, a long nose plier, a flathead screwdriver, some sort of small scraping implements, a 9mm wrench, and other things like toothbrushes. Also a sink where you can rinse the parts, and a tub for washing parts, and a cup for washing parts at the end. What I found also very useful is some sandpaper or mesh screen that is used typically for smoothing drywall, but it is also very good for working with wet sanding. All right, to get inside the unit, you have to remove 8 screws plus a metal brace at the very end. Just set those aside, and the cover pops right off, and then you're ready to go work on inside the unit. So this is the inside of the steam mop. It's very simple. There's the tanks here, pumping mechanism in the middle. Pump is in here, feed pumps the water into the bottom of the heating core that we're going to open up. There's inside of that heating core is a heating element that is very, very hot. Water hits it, steam gets generated, pushed out through this tube and down into here. There's no valves in here, there's nothing, there's just a straight pipe into the tube that goes into the heating core. Some tips and hints: you'll need to clip these little ties. Should get them back, because it helps keep these tubes up away from the heating core when it's all set and assembled. So here's a trick I found out, is that the body of this heater core has 2 pins that get suspended between 2 angle brackets on either side. I loosen the screws and do not remove them. If you remove them, you'll discover a heat washer that has been glued to the plastic underneath. The glue is kind of old, so it'll probably, the heat washer then gets lost, and it's a little bit of a job to get them all back in. Okay, I'm showing you this after I took it apart and it got cleaned. I was first worried that there was a gasket or some sort of spraying mechanism or something else hidden inside these units. I should have known better. Mine was stuck solid by the calcium. So I got all the screws out, and I couldn't pop it up. I gently used a very fine screwdriver, and I pried my way around until I got enough of a gap, and then I was able to pull it apart, and it just slid right off like that, and then it poured out a pile of calcium dust. Okay, here's what the heater core looks like. There's some red paste around the check valve right there. You can take a 9mm wrench and grab the sides, and that will let you loosen it and remove the check valve from the unit itself. And there you have it. There's the check valve for the feed. And there's a little plastic sleeve. Don't lose that. It's on the very end. The red paste was there to stop it from coming out during manufacture. And inside, you can see inside you can see all of that gunk blocking things up. So I'm going to clean that out. So this is how it should look. This is how I did it. I put enough CLR and water in the cup measuring cup, just enough to submerge the bottom part of the system. The check valve is just a tube, goes straight through, metal tube. At the very tip is a 90-degree bend. Basically that end, you can't poke anything through there. This little rubber boot covers the hole, and that is how the steam the water doesn't shoot back into when it pushes water through, but doesn't let water out. This boot is a little more for the wear, so I'm going to be careful in watching it when I put it back in. Now the hole I started with before, you can see, is now almost pristine inside, and I'm hoping this will solve the problem we were having with getting water through here. Okay, So here is the inside of that heating cup, and you can see where there is a plenty of deposits of the mineral from the water as it gets heated up and blasted out of steam. So after some judicious scraping and soaking in CLR, you can see I got rid of most of the deposits. I found that using the this mesh sandpaper that you use for doing drywall worked really well because it's very flexible and doesn't lose its grit as readily. It doesn't get clogged up. This unit I got somewhat clean. I was afraid to get too aggressive with it. I was aiming for just get the gunk out and make sure that hole is crystal clear right through. You can see the whiteness there. I'll flip this around. And there is all clean all the way down, all the way into the unit. Alright, you're ready to reassemble the unit now. You twist the check valve back into the case. Use the 9mm wrench to tighten it back down. That red paste is Loctite. You can use that if you wish. Make sure it's the high temperature type. And then you're ready to put the whole unit back together. When you put it back together, you just have to line up the tab and put all the screws back in, snugging them really, really tight because there is no gasket. This is all that's keeping the steam inside the unit. The good news is that there's this big hole on this end that's going out to the mop head. So there's not going to be all that much pressure building up in the unit. Alright, our unit is all back together. Nice and tight. I reassembled the feed hose. And what you should notice is that when you take the hoses apart, that there is a spring, a long spring inside the hose. I'm not sure of its purpose other than to maybe keep the hose from collapsing on itself and keep it flexible. So just be careful of those. You'll see them. You have to put those back in. So this is how your unit should look after you get it back together. You need to remember to put back the zip ties to keep the tubing away from the heating core, and you can go back to the beginning of the video and review how I explain the L brackets to hold the heater core back in, and then you need to put the cover back on. After the cover is assembled, you put back all the screws, you are ready to turn it on and start testing. The proof is in the pumping. Here it is after cleaning. Generating plenty of steam. So that's it. That's how you put together, take apart and put back together and repair a Shark steam mop, model S3501.